Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Crimes, Killers, Cults,
And beer.
and Beer.
I did it this time.
I'm Bill, and this is my ruggedly handsome fill-in co-host, Kevin.
Still can't call me beautiful, huh? Damn.
No,
What a shame.
or lovely. But my lovely co-host Sandra, something came up at the very last minute, like about 45 minutes ago. So I was able to, at the last minute, find a fill-in.
Yep.
And it works because Kevin here is launching a new podcast soon. So tell us about that.
Oh boy. So I am starting a new show called History Goon, focusing on just exactly what it is history. Mostly, I have a thing with like wanting to talk about like combat and wars and stuff like that. That's just kind of where my focus is kicked in, was that. And I'm going to do a lot of people that most people haven't heard of. I mean, obviously I'm going to do, some big name people, but a lot of the lesser known folks have crazier stories than the people you've heard of.
Definitely.
Like one that I've definitely got lined up for probably the first 20 episodes is a guy named Pat Glover, who was a British paratrooper that brought a chicken into combat with him. She did I'm not even, I wish I was kidding. When he was doing his jump training, he brought her with him. Her name was it Myrtle? I believe it was Myrtle. She did enough training jumps that she actually earned jump wings, which is I believe it's like 7 for the Brits. So she did 7 training jumps and got her little silver jump wings that they put on a piece of ribbon that they put around her neck. And yeah.
I would ask for more details, but I don't. I want to hear the whole story. I'll just wait.
Oh, it's fucking wild. Something about the Brits. The Brits did a lot of wild shit during World War II, like him. And then there's another guy that has technically disabled a German vehicle with an umbrella. Yeah.
Oh man.
We'll save him though.
And so we've got Kevin and I have already recorded an episode and that where Kevin took the lead on, and we're when he's about ready to launch his podcast, we're going to release that episode to help him promote it. So that was a good episode. It was fun.
I'm pretty jazzed. Like I think it came out pretty good.
It did. Yeah, it's waiting on you.
Especially when I'm reading through my notes and I'm listing these places and you're like, yeah, I know right where that is. It's like, shit, this is cool.
Now our listeners are waiting on you.
Right, yeah. And so I'm looking at dropping probably the first couple weeks of February. I'll be putting the first episode out. I've got a couple ready to go already. I was just kind of biding my time, hoping to get out of the transitory studio that you see around us. Once I have my own place, because like my life kind of fell apart here towards the tail end of last year. Everything went to shit. Once I have my own place and I can actually set up the studio, I'm going to be much more excited about it. Because we've been talking back and forth. I'm like, I think I'm gonna try doing some YouTube stuff with it, and if I don't hear back from some things, I'll probably end up re-recording my first 2 episodes that I've already done and doing it in front of a camera and kind of seeing how that goes.
Oh, cool. I mean, YouTube is here lately. We've been getting a lot more off of YouTube than off of Spotify. So yeah, that's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
I couldn't tell you how many hours a day I spend on YouTube. Just even if I'm a podcast that I really like I can't sit and listen to it. But if I have it on where I can actually see the guys interacting, it's so much better. So I watch that a lot. And then just doing research, finding documentaries and crap like that. I'm always on YouTube.
Yeah, it's definitely something that every podcaster should utilize. Although I hope they don't.
Right.
because I'm greedy.
I don't know if we've ever had that conversation before, but like this is one of the few like call it a business industry, whatever, is like podcasting, where I can't say never, I've run into one person that I've asked for help that told me to go fuck myself. Everybody else has been like, no, what do you need help with? I can help you. You want to run a promo, you need, technical help with stuff like that. And I've always liked trying to return the favor on that half of it too.
Yeah, everybody, for the most part, I've had a couple people, blow me off, but I'm not going to name any names. But they record in a garage, but no, I'll cut that part out.
And if I could even remember the name of the show that blew me off, I would tell you who they were, because it was within, I don't know, 6 months of me asking for help that they stopped recording, and I'm like, good.
Okay.
I don't feel bad about that.
Yeah, I mean, even the guy that got busted stealing even helped me before that. So,
and that's a whole weird story, because I had heard from people that he mentioned that this was not a real thing that he was covering, and it was from something else, and people still freaked out about it.
His listeners, the ones that don't listen to Time Suck.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I did a fake episode for April Fool's Day a year before Time Suck did. So,
I did one on Dark Windows where I made up a guy's backstory. I made up some like war stories about him. I made up how he died. And I had my co-host at the time, I had him hook, line, and sinker until the last second, when I was like, the craziest part about the story is none of it was true. I thought he was going to get up and walk out of the studio. He was so mad.
Well, when we did ours, I had to have Todd in on it to help me sell it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have. But I have done that to him. I had done that to him before. He took the lead on a cryptids episode, and he was just doing like several stories about cryptids. So I made one up, and he's like, "Oh, I've never heard about that one. Cool." And I said, and it was called the Gibsonton Gator Man. It was supposed to be some like off military experiment gone wrong or something like that. And then at the end of it, I'm like, and the people of Gibsonton will never deny the existence of the Gator Man. You know why? He's like, it's part of this town's lore. I said, no, they've never heard of it. I made the whole damn thing up. He's like, you mother. Anyway, I have no more ado. Let's get into this one. Time for the depressing part.
Yeah.
But the past couple episodes have been fun ones. This was where the fun ends, because we're covering Anthony Sowell, what I call a second tier heavy hitter. He's from Cleveland. He was a vicious monster, the worst serial killer in Cleveland's history, maybe even Ohio's history. I'm not sure. But for some reason, he's kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the second highest body count of a killer disposing of bodies in his own home, and the first is obviously John Wayne Gacy.
That's crazy.
But Anthony Sowell was a serial killer known as the Cleveland Strangler. He was convicted in 2011 of killing 11 women, and he disposed of them in his own home. The smell was just overlooked because everybody thought it was coming from a sausage factory that was literally next door to his home.
Oh.
But the smell hit you like a ton of bricks once you went inside the house. The house was in the Mount Pleasant subdivision of Cleveland, an African-American neighborhood where generations of families lived. Everybody knew everybody. It was generally safe. And yes, Anthony Sowell is a black man. He was born August 19th, 1959. That makes him a Virgo. To Claudia Gertrude Harrison, who was a single mom, and he was one of 7 kids in the house. His sister and 5 other kids all lived in the same house, and the other kids were the children of her sister Claudia, or her sister. Claudia had taken them in after the sister died, and her sister had 5 kids before she turned 18.
Whoa! Damn.
I'd say there was probably some trafficking going on there.
Oh yeah, unfortunately. I mean, that's 5 by 18. Boy, that's too many kids to have before you're 18.
That's too many kids to have. Period.
True. Unless you're a farmer in like the 13th century or something.
Yeah. Yeah, freaking Carl Panzram's family.
How many did they have? Did like 11 or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. My mom's the second youngest of 6, but that's a little different.
But Anthony was good in school. He played sports. He had a lot of friends, and despite all outward appearances, and just all outward appearances said that they had a functioning family unit. And inside the house, though, was a completely different story.
Mm.
Claudia was very abusive to the children, and Anthony got the worst of it. The other one who got the worst of it were his nieces, twins named Leona and Ramona Davis. Claudia would force Leona to strip naked, and she would beat her with electrical cords until she started bleeding.
God damn.
But yeah, Anthony was no angel either. He began raping Leona when she was just 10 years old.
Good guy is what we're going for here then.
Yeah. In fact, all of the boys raped the girls.
Jesus.
It was a house of horrors, literally. And what is it with the name Gertrude?
Right? We were just talking about that, and
Yeah.
the other one may have actually been Satan, but this one's not much better.
Yeah. I mean, there was no actual rape in the Baniszewski case, but that we know of. I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. I'm sure that poor girl was raped at some point, but no, because when they did her autopsy, they determined that she was still a virgin.
Right. They just did other atrocious shit to her.
I think Claudia and Gertrude Baniszewski would have been great friends, I think.
Yeah. They'd have been playing bridge and shit together. Swapping notes on how to beat your kids correctly.
If you win, all right, whoever wins this hand gets to beat the other one's kids.
When you hit him with the extension cord, you got to make sure you get him with the male end of it, because that's got the metal in there. Just a little extra snap to it, little extra zing on that thing.
One night there was a bad fight in the house, and Leona called the police, and she had bruises on her, and she reported the rape, but nothing was done. She later said that if the police had listened to her, none of this would have ever happened with Anthony, and she's probably right.
Yeah, because they probably would have snagged him out of the house immediately and been like, "Hey, we're gonna put you somewhere where they can look at your brain and go, what the hell's wrong with this thing?" and try to figure it out.
But time and time again, black cases get ignored. It's horrible, but it's unfortunately true. It's not as it still happens now, just not nearly as much. So there's improvement, but we're not where we need to be yet.
They're part of that. Oh God, what was that category that they were putting people into? Like the less dead or something like that.
Yeah, less dead, or that was a term in the Willie Picton case.
Yeah, because it's like nobody cares if a prostitute goes missing, and this is a neighborhood where it doesn't sound like the police were super excited to hang out and really pay attention to actually policing. But
when Anthony was in high school, things began to change. He loved to fight, and most times he was fighting people who taunted him, mainly for being a virgin. You're a virgin. Yeah, but he wasn't a virgin.
I was going to say, was he though? I mean,
yeah, he wasn't a virgin, but obviously he couldn't give any details.
Right. Yeah, because when it's a crime, you don't really want to brag about it.
Right.
Or with your cousin or whatever it was, niece.
In high school, he knocked up a 14-year-old girl, and as a result, he joined the Marines. Just trying to get the hell out of Dodge. His MOS was an electrician. Claudia mocked him for joining the Marines, saying that he would never survive in the Marines. In 1980, he was deployed to Japan for a year, and while there, he started getting into trouble, getting into bar fights. In 1985, he was discharged, and I guess he didn't rape anybody as a Marine, but his entire that we know of. His entire tour in the Marines was to prove Claudia wrong, but still, he was learning how to take people down and overpower them. Put a knife in that.
Yep. Because there's actually a guy that I'm getting ready to record here shortly, Dan Daly. I've got the quote pulled up right here. Every Marine is first and foremost a rifleman. All other conditions are secondary.
Yep.
So being an electrician is like, whatever, but you're going to know how to do all this other stuff too, because like they don't send the Marine Corps in for humanitarian stuff.
No.
A guy that I know has said more than once, you call the Marines when you need something broken, dead, or pregnant.
Yeah.
That's what they.
That almost slipped by me. But he was honorably discharged, and he left the Marines with several rewards and several, commendations and stuff like that. So he was, for all intents and purposes, he was a good Marine.
Almost makes you wonder if he'd stayed in, would he like got himself squared away?
He should have gone career.
Yeah, it would have kept him. It probably would have kept him out of a lot of trouble.
Sources are Very Scary People documentary, season 6, episode 1, Cleveland.com, Murderpedia, a little bit of wiki. After he left the Marines, he moved back home, and the neighborhood had changed. And between 1978 and 1985, crack had begun running through the neighborhood. Crime was a normal occurrence, gang activity, and everything that comes with it.
Love it.
Violence, including a possible serial killer. The bodies of 3 women, 2 of them were suspected drug users, turned up near Sowell's place. In May of 1988, the body of 36-year-old Rosalind Garner was found in her home on Hayden Avenue. She had been strangled. Carmela Karen Prater, 27, a resident of Page Avenue and suspected drug user, was found in an abandoned home on First Avenue just off of Hayden on February 27, 1989. Cause of death is unknown. A month later, March 28th, the body of another suspected drug user, Mary Thomas, 27, was found near an abandoned building, again on First Avenue. The red ribbon used to strangle Thomas was still around her neck. None of these 3 cases are solved, but the MO used in their deaths is a carbon copy of Sowell's MO. Law enforcement believes that they were actually his first 3 victims and that his total body count is 14. And
that sounds about right. He's dialing everything in the first few times.
Yeah. And there could be even more.
Yeah.
Definitely. Probably.
When they're like, this is how many they killed. It's like, no, tack on an extra 2 or 3 bare minimum each time, basically.
Yeah. Unless you're Henry Lee Lucas.
Then don't give him any more. He's taking credit for shit he didn't do in the first place.
Yeah. Sowell had a hair trigger temper and compartmentalized PTSD and rage from his childhood. Probably a little bit from the Marines too. But he was trained to kill. He was now drunk 24/7, and he dove headfirst into crack as well. In 1989, teenage runaway Melvette Sockwell encountered Sowell. She randomly asked him if she could use his phone. He says yes, and he took her into the house through the back door. He led her upstairs to his room, supposedly not to disturb his sister, who was sleeping on the couch.
I'm proud of myself. Like you've mentioned crack twice, and I haven't once brought up the fact that it was actually created by the CIA and introduced into the black community intentionally.
You just did.
Oh, yeah, very briefly.
He closed the door and he attacked her, and he put a large knife to her neck. He hog-tied her, and he told her to say her prayers because he was going to fuck her, and then he was going to kill her.
Oh, nice guy.
Yeah. He held her prisoner for several days, beating her and raping her. He didn't sleep the entire time. More military training.
And crack, yeah.
And crack. And crack. One day, like 2 days later, he finally did fall asleep. And like an inchworm, Melvette inched to the window, tied up, naked. It was fight and flight in action here. And she actually used her head to raise the window.
Oh my God.
Pulled herself up and let herself fall out. And there was an extension on the front of the house on the lower level, like an awning over the porch, and she landed on that. She only fell a few feet rather than 15 feet.
Yeah, it's still hogtied, so you hit that and then roll to the ground. Like, that's going to suck.
Yeah. But if she didn't, she was dead.
That's true, yeah. I mean, separated shoulders probably better than being dead. I mean, I've never had either or, but...
She got the attention of 2 old ladies walking down the street. They saw that Melvette was bound and nude and gagged, and they immediately called the police. Melvette saw the police and fire truck arrive, but somebody grabbed her from behind and pulled her back in.
Oh, shit.
She started screaming, thinking it was Anthony, and it wasn't. It was his sister Tressa. She told Tressa everything, but Tressa didn't want to believe it. She'd been in the house for 2 days straight, being beaten and raped and all that. How could they not hear what was going on?
She definitely did.
Yeah.
There's no way you didn't. I mean, that's not I mean, beating somebody up is not a quiet process.
Yeah, but Sowell. I've said that name 20 times already at this point and not had a problem with it. What the fuck?
Step on your own tongue. I do that all the time. Then you sit back, you got to edit it. You're like, man, I can't fucking talk like at all. Why am I doing this?
Sowell said that Melvette had set him up and she tried to steal from him and that he caught her and that's why he tied her up. And to this day, Tressa still believes Anthony's account of the story.
Huh. Not to be that guy, but I think his sister might be stupid.
Well, she believes everything else, just not that.
Oh, okay, yeah. He did all that other shit, just not this one particular one. The rest of it, totally.
It's like, I mean, if he had done it, he would have killed her. That's horrible.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, not wrong though.
True.
Unfortunately.
Melvette was taken to the hospital and they did a rape kit on her. Then they turned her loose wearing nothing but a hospital gown because she had nobody to call to come get her or to bring her clothes. Oh, by the way, she was 3 months pregnant when this happened.
Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Anthony was arrested and charged with kidnapping and raping Melvette. Sowell told the police that she was a prostitute and he had been paying her for sex. He claimed that he didn't remember why he had to tie her up because he was schnockered on drugs and alcohol.
I paid her. That makes it okay.
Yeah. But he did plead guilty. He was tried and sentenced to 5 to 15 years in prison. And all through his sentence, which he served all 15 years of, he maintained his innocence despite pleading guilty.
Hold on. Wait, hold on. So he pled guilty, and then the entire time was like, I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Why would you plead guilty then, you idiot?
I mean, he hadn't killed anybody, so it wouldn't have been death penalty. But the sentence would have been worse if he had, had to go through a trial.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
In a prison questionnaire, and it was a list of questions for fill in the blank. One line said most women blank, and he filled it in with just tell lies.
I mean, no, I'm kidding. I mean, it could have been worse. He could have said, can't drive or shouldn't be allowed to vote. So just to really, really nail home the fact that he's a piece of shit.
But all through his sentence, his rage was building and he hated women, but he was a model inmate. Once again, that's military training settled in. He was used to structure and being told what to do. Because, like we said before, he should have stayed in the Marines. But
100% agree.
Yeah. In 2005, he was released. Melvette was not notified that he was released, and she called to ask why she wasn't notified, and she was told that he had done his time, so there was no reason to notify her.
I think that's changed since then.
I don't think that was a thing then.
No. There was another guy that Tommy Lynn Sells did the same thing. They released him, and he's like, okay, cool, I'm going to go finish this one that I fucking started.
But she stayed inside for years and was looking over her shoulder, afraid that he would come for her. Luckily,
no joke.
Luckily, he never did. But after this rape, police had sent a DNA sample from Sowell to Fairfax, but it was lost in the mail.
Of course. Of course.
When he got out, he returned to alcohol, but didn't return to crack yet.
We'll get there.
We'll get there.
We'll get back to smoking crack eventually.
Sowell then moved in to his father's house after being released. Same neighborhood, different street. His father, Thomas, had left when he was just a kid, but later on he had gotten married. He died while Anthony was in prison, and his wife now lived alone in this 3-story house. His stepmother invited him to move in when he got out of prison, which he did. But that would prove to be a mistake due to Anthony's alcoholism and all the drugs that he was doing. And also, he didn't know what a trash can was. Before too long, the house was ankle deep in garbage everywhere. So the stepmother bolted, so he's basically got this house all to himself.
Oh, God.
And this
That's perfect. That's exactly what he needs.
Yeah.
Is a fucking lair.
Yeah. Basically a squat house. For a time, Anthony seemed to be on the right track. He had a good job at a factory. He was seeing a therapist for his anger issues. It was very public. He would have neighbors over to drink some beers on his porch, play chess, poker, dominoes, or checkers. He would host neighborhood barbecues, and he got a reputation of being the best barbecue cook in the neighborhood. What a waste,
Right?
I mean, he would also help out neighbors with repairs to their homes, like electrical problems and stuff like that. People liked him.
If it weren't for all the criminal shit, he would have been a decent neighbor.
Yeah.
Damn.
and the smell.
Oh, yeah, right.
But it doesn't smell yet at this point. It does smell, but it smells of garbage, not death.
It just smells like somebody that doesn't know how to clean their house.
Right. But he met a woman named Lori Frazier, who was the niece of then Cleveland Mayor Frank Jackson.
Oh, great.
They began dating.
Moving up in the world.
Not really.
I've got connections.
She was kind of the black sheep of the family. She was broke, and she was walking down the street, and she wanted a drink, and Saul approached her, and they started talking. She thought that he was nice, and he apparently knew how to read the room. So he asked her if she wanted to go to a bar and have a drink, so she happily agreed. So they went. And Sowell bought her drinks and food. She also told him that she wanted some crack, which Sowell obliged because he had connections.
Yeah, I can get crack, absolutely.
Crack, I can get you crack. Every time he's talking about crack like that, I'm think of how Time Suck does it. Let me get some crack.
This is a real life Lady and the Tramp story going on here.
Oh yeah.
Instead of spaghetti, they just start at one end of a crack pipe each and just smoke to the middle. Smoke the rock into the center.
Oh man. He got her some, and they went back to his place, and he didn't smoke any, but she did, and he didn't care. Kind of like when a non-smoker dates a smoker.
Right.
When I was a smoker, I dated non-smokers, and they just wanted me to take a drink before I kissed them after I had had a cigarette.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pungent smell and taste.
I don't smoke anymore. And I cannot believe that I used to smell like that. That smell disgusts me now.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, every once in a while I'll slip back into it and like out at the bar with it, with the boys, like, yeah, I'll have a couple of smokes, like, yeah, and then you get home, you're like, oh god, I fucking reek. This is terrible.
I vape. I do vape. Obviously, everybody that watches these videos knows that I vape. But so I'm still a nicotine addict. I'm just not destroying my lungs anymore.
Fair enough. One of the guys I work with, he'll go through the Zyn, like the Zyn packets, the cans. He'll rip through one of those in like 2 days just at work. Yeah. It's like, Jesus, dude.
I haven't had a cigarette since 2021.
Oh, damn. Good for you.
And I had quit since in 2019, but in 2021, there was a one-off thing. I had gone to work. I had forgotten my debit card, and I ran out of vape juice in my vape, and I couldn't stop and get more because I had $10 cash. That's not enough to get a thing of vape juice.
Right.
So I just bought a pack of cigarettes. And during that day, I smoked like 6 cigarettes out of that pack, only halfway. So I actually only smoked 3 cigarettes. Mm-hmm. Made me physically ill.
So how much is a pack of cigarettes down there then? Just out of curiosity.
Marlboro's like $8.
Oh my God. Damn, man. It's like, I was a Camel menthol guy, right? And I was just down at the store here a little bit ago. They've got them, like the thing behind the counter. They're like $14.75 a pack.
Damn. Well, you can get the Marlboro Blacks, and they're like $6.
Damn.
They're like
we went to Tennessee a couple years ago, and a lady I work with gave me like $100. She's like, just buy me as many packs of Marlboro Reds as you can. I'm like, okay.
Here's 3.
I bought her a carton of Marlboro Reds with $100, and I brought her back $30 change.
Jeez.
Then I bought my dad's because my dad smokes cheap shit. I got his through a drive-through for $50 a carton. Shit.
The hell with that.
Like, Tennessee is amazing.
But anyway, I threw the rest of that pack away, and I haven't had one since, and I never will.
Good. Good.
But he fell in love with Lori, and she met all of her. God damn. He met all of her needs, and he cooked for her, so he was in love. So far so good, right?
Yeah.
He's still being a good guy, kinda, even though despite the crack.
The only question, speaking of crack, the only question I would have is like, is he cooking her just meals, or is he also cooking her the crack, or is he just buying that elsewhere?
Yeah, he had connections.
Yeah, fair enough. It's easier to just buy it than it is to make it.
Yeah.
Not that I know, obviously.
She totally crashed through his walls, and he was now 100% honest with her. He told her that he had done 15 years for raping a woman, but he also told her that he was innocent, and she believed him. I mean, he was really sweet to her, so how could he not be innocent,
Yeah, of course. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah. He also told her about how awful his mother was, although I'm sure he left out the part about his raping his niece, but that's... Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he omitted that little tidbit of information.
That's a detail I would definitely drop in his situation.
But Sowell gradually started changing, and he didn't smoke crack at first, but he did start. And he was trying to get Lori clean and wound up getting hooked on crack himself.
Oh, fuck. That sucks. Oh, man. It's like that episode of King of the Hill where they find Bobby smoking cigarettes, and Hank's like, you're going to smoke the entire carton, and he's showing him how to do it, and he starts smoking again, too.
Yeah. Oh, man. It quickly got to the point to where he was on it more often than not. So now he was a full-blown addict, probably worse than he was before he went to prison. This led to Sowell losing his job, which led to him breaking into houses and stealing copper, stealing and stripping cars for money. And Lori was starting to back away.
Mm-hmm.
In 2007, Lori's mother died. Her mother had custody of Lori's kids, so this was a wake-up call for her. She got clean and moved into her mother's house to be there for her kids. And she had been planning on leaving Sowell anyway, because he was rapidly going downhill, and she didn't like the path that he was on. It was, but put a knife in that.
I don't like that you're smoking crack. I'm the only one doing that around here.
Yeah. This caused Sowell's compartmentalized rage to come surging back to the surface. I can't believe I got through that sentence without.
Well done.
He completely lost it, and this is when women started disappearing from the neighborhood. None of these 11 women would be found until the day when Sowell was busted. But like in a lot of these cases, these women were all inner city African American women, most of which had drug issues, so they weren't prioritized by the police department.
Yep.
In January 2007, Sowell was shoveling snow when he suffered a major heart attack. Unfortunately, for 11 plus women, he survived.
Yeah.
So he was fitted with a pacemaker. So yes, at 48 years old, Sowell committed his first known murder after having a heart attack, and all of them were committed with a pacemaker attached to him. Not to mention all that he was doing not to make his heart better, because he was on.
That's a testament to just dedication to the craft,
Yeah. But he was on crack and alcohol constantly, and that's not something that you should be on if you're wearing a freaking pacemaker.
No. I don't think you're supposed to drink when you have a pacemaker.
Mm-mm. But we have an ad from the company who made the pacemaker, and Sowell was actually featured on it. Obviously, this was before he was outed as a murderer, so I'm going to roll that right now.
Hello. Just because you suffered a major heart attack and you have to wear a pacemaker doesn't mean that you have to stop living life. Here at Picking Up the Pace Makers, we have developed a revolutionary new device that will let people who have suffered heart attacks continue living an active and upbeat lifestyle. But don't take our word for it. Listen to one of our many satisfied clients, Anthony.
Thank you, Picking Up the Pace Makers. When I had my heart attack, I was worried that my life was over. I mean, I was at the cardio-filled life. I was active, and I took part in very physical activities that involved running, lifting heavy objects, and overall, just a harsh training regimen like what I got used to in the Marines. I thought it was all over. I mean, I have hard hobbies, and I didn't know what I'd do if I lost those things. But Picking Up the Pace Makers was a game changer for me. In fact, just last week I hoisted something up and tossed it up like it was nothing. It had to have weighed at least 125 pounds. I feel the strength and endurance of my youth. Thanks, Picking Up the Pace Makers. Because of you, I can keep killing it and laugh. I love you.
We love you too, Anthony. So keep your killer instinct. Keep your independent lifestyle, Anthony. And if you're interested, call us up at 555-5455 or KILL. And let our trained professionals come up with a plan to keep you in the game, to keep your killer instinct going, to keep your active lifestyle intact. And keep killing it with Picking Up the Pace Makers. Most medical insurance is accepted. Call us now.
Like that?
That's fantastic. Oh, God.
Seriously, I made that ad for Mark from Mental Illness Theater back when they covered Sowell about 2 years ago. They loved it, and they've played it on their show, but they called it quits on their podcast recently. So I decided to use
shit.
Yeah, I decided to use the episode for CKCB. If that show was still running, I wouldn't have used it, but that show's not running anymore, so I made it, so I'm going to use it for my solo episode.
And it sucks because it always seems like the good shows that are the ones that are like, we can't do this anymore, and they just kind of,
I know,
then there's the ones you're like, I fucking hate these guys. I wish they'd stop, and they just keep going.
I know.
And then they make like $900,000 a year on Patreon and cover a guy that we covered early on and don't get half the fucking information in it, and they still get a bunch of money because of who they are. And I'm not bitter. I mean,
now we're going to get into the murders and assaults. I'm just going to go through them with all the details available, as well as where they were found in the house, and we'll finish up with the details of how it was discovered, caught, and the trial. Here we go.
Let's get into the fun part, right?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Picking Up the Pace Makers.
I was starting to feel better, and now my stomach hurts.
May 17, 2007, a 38-year-old mother of 7, Crystal Dozier, disappeared. Her body was discovered buried in Sowell's backyard. He found it difficult to dig a deep hole to bury her, so he just dug a grave that was about 1.5 feet deep and covered it with garbage. And this is when the smell started becoming an issue.
That's not deep enough, my man.
No. All of the people who lived in the area began blaming the smell on Ray's Sausage Factory, which is literally right next door to his house. But if you walk into the factory, you didn't smell it. all of Ray and all of his employees all said that the odor was not coming from the factory.
No, and if your sausage smells like that, don't fucking eat it.
Don't eat it, yeah.
That's bad.
I mean, yeah. I'm sure that rendering plant that Willie Picton used didn't smell that bad.
Have you ever driven by a rendering plant?
I have. Ugh.
Oh my God.
It's bad.
The only one worse than that for some reason are paper plants.
Oh, I know.
Oh, Jesus.
That's why New Orleans smells bad, because there's 2 paper mills in the vicinity.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But the first time I ever went there, I was just because I'd been near a paper plant before, and I know the smell, and I had always heard stories about how badly New Orleans stunk and all that stuff. So I get over there, the area, and I smell it. I'm like, it's just a paper mill. Which, I mean, it's bad, but still, it's not because people puking all over the street and everything like that. If anything, you know, freaking San Francisco would smell worse than New Orleans if
Oh
that was the
God,
case.
I couldn't imagine driving through San Francisco. I mean, you figure paper mills and, also the city's built like below sea level in a swamp. It's probably not going to smell great regardless, but, the paper mills are playing a factor there.
Yeah. In June 2008, 31-year-old Tishana Culver went missing. She was a very friendly person despite her demons, and she was go out of her way to help a stranger. She was in and out of her family. Her grandmother filed a missing persons report at the crime scene of Sowell's house in 2009. It turned out she was one of the victims discovered there, and she was found on the third floor of the house.
Oof.
August of 2008, 25-year-old LaShonda Long went missing. She lived in East Cleveland, but had friends in the Mount Pleasant area, which was about 10, 15 miles south of East Cleveland. When she went missing, her dad filed a missing person report in East Cleveland, but back then the various precincts weren't sharing information with each other. The only part of LaShonda that was recovered was her skull, which was found in a bucket in the basement. The rest
cute.
Yeah. The rest of her body was never found, and Sowell never gave up that information. She was probably somewhere in his yard. They just didn't find it.
Yeah.
But September 21st, 2008, 34-year-old Vanessa Gay, a good mother of four who was very involved in her kids' upbringing, met Anthony on the streets. He was using his nice guy persona, and she liked him. She wasn't a hardcore drug user like Sowell, but she was an addict. And her husband had turned her onto the drugs, and she wound up leaving her husband and kids, but she met Sowell and wound up accompanying him back to his house. He told her about his military service and that it was his birthday and he was going to have a cookout, and he promised drinks and drugs. And remember, he was born on August 19th. This is September 21st.
Yeah, it's a late birthday party.
Yeah.
My birthday for next year.
But the thing is it's just like, I'm sure all of these women noticed the smell. I mean, how could you not?
No.
But if you're that hooked, you're not going to give a shit.
That's true. But it's like the other thing is when you're burying bodies deep enough that you could, open up the grave with a fucking lawn rake. I mean, it's not really helping your cause.
But most of them were found in the house just.
Oh, that's
randomly.
right.
Yeah. Just covered up with trash. But so they got to his house. It was disgusting, murky with a sick smell, but Sowell explained it away, saying it was coming from the sausage factory. Plus, he was promising crack, so she stayed. And he continued telling her about Lori and how much he hated her for hurting him. He broke out the crack pipe and took a hit and then punched Vanessa in the face.
That's the correct order to do that in, I guess.
Yeah. He then
beat her. What, my fist?
He then beat her and raped her all night long. While the multiple assaults were going on, Sowell told her that she wasn't like the others and she didn't deserve what he was doing to her. Well, then stop, you douchebag.
Idiot. I don't know if it's safe to say, but I don't like this guy.
I don't either.
I mean,
I don't like any of the people that we cover for the most part.
Fair enough.
Except for Bum Mazel. I like him. He's cool. He wasn't a murderer.
Those are the guys that I like,
The next morning, Sowell let her use the bathroom. She did a little snooping, thinking about escaping because Sowell had stayed in the bedroom, but she discovered a corpse with no head on it, so she decided to play along.
Hold on here. So she found the body. It was like, I'm going to just pretend I didn't see that.
She was going to try to escape and try to get away, but if Sowell knew that she had seen the body, she definitely wasn't going to make it out of there.
Fair.
She decided to play along because she figured if she freaked out, she'd be next. So she went to the bathroom, then went back to Sowell. He knew that she had seen the body, and he told her that he couldn't let her leave. She told him that if he let her go, she swore she wouldn't report him. She's like, honey, it was just more rough than I was used to. And, I looking back on it, I did kind of like it. She didn't even mention the body. So he's
playing it smart.
Yeah. This girl was rock star.
Damn.
But she even promised to come back, for more at some other time. She actually got through to him, and he let her go. She had played it off like she hadn't seen the body and was only talking about the rape. She outwitted him and survived.
Jesus.
Yeah, that people like that are the bright spots in these episodes.
Have you ever covered Gary Heidnik?
No.
Okay. There's one in there too. If you ever cover him, he's a giant scumbag, but there's one woman there that you're just like, no, you know what? She did it the right way. She was very smart about how she did this. And yeah, that's a wild story. I think you would, I know you would enjoy it, but
I know who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might do a double feature with him and Joseph Fritzl.
Ooh, that would be kind of the perfect combo.
Oh, evil
considering.
combo. But she did go to the police, and you're damn right she did. But they told her to come to the police station. They wouldn't come to her. She was beaten and had been brutalized, and she had to walk to the police station, and the police never took her seriously.
Nah, we can't get out there right now.
Yeah. I mean, we just got donuts in.
I mean, some of us got bagels, gonna break the stereotype.
Oh my God. They did a Dick Darwin on the Jerry Brudos episode, talking about how they found the body in his, how a car had crashed into his house, and police looked into his garage. He had a body hanging there, and they didn't even see it.
What?
Jerry Brudos. He had a body in his garage, and they looked in the garage and somehow didn't see it. And Dick Darwin determined that the reason was because they had senseless officers, like officers that had no sense of smell.
Yeah, I mean, I've never come across a dead body, but I mean, I used to do pest control, and the smell of death is not a smell that you ever forget.
Right.
I would imagine on a larger scale with like a person, you're definitely going to notice that.
I knew somebody. I worked with this guy years ago. He had been in the Army or something, and he was on one of the crews that went to go clean up Jonestown.
Oh no!
Yeah,
you could smell that from fucking orbit, I bet.
Yeah, he's like, I can still smell it.
God.
And this was in the 90s.
Gets stuck in your nose, and it's just there.
Yeah. But because Sowell's DNA wasn't on file, it's likely that he had even more rape victims. And even if a woman did come forward, it was likely blown off and put a knife in that. Lots of knives in this episode.
Yeah. It was on file. It just never made it to where it was supposed to be filed.
Right.
Ugh. God bless the postal system.
On October 8th, 2008, 45-year-old Michelle Mason disappeared. Her body was discovered in Sowell's backyard. November 10th, 2008, 53-year-old Tanya Carmichael vanished. She was a good mother to her kids, and she liked to party as well. And she lived in the suburbs. One night she went out on the town, and she wound up in the Mount Pleasant subdivision. She vanished, and her truck was found down the street from Sowell's house. She was close with her family, and when she didn't come home that night, her family noticed immediately and reported her missing. The family posted missing person posters all over the place, and her body was discovered buried in Sowell's backyard.
Ugh.
Oh, man. December 8, 2008, Gladys Wade was attacked by Sowell. She was walking home, and she walked past his house, and he was on the porch doing his nice persona thing. He told her, "Merry Christmas." And she returned the greeting. "Merry Christmas." He asked her to come inside, and she said no. She wasn't interested, and she kept walking. So Sowell pounced, and he grabbed her from behind and dragged her into his house, and she fought him, but unfortunately she passed out. Sowell dragged her up to the third floor, and when she woke up, she was lying on the floor. Sowell heard her wake up, and he came back into the room. He told her that she could scream, but nobody would hear her. Gladys said, and I'm embellishing here for her sake, says, "Nobody's going to hear you scream, bitch."
I'm going to kick your ass, mister.
Yeah. Now I'm not embellishing. She grabbed his nuts and squeezed as hard as she could with one hand, gouged the shit out of his face with the other, he jumped away, and she got out and hauled ass out of there. She got outside, but Sowell tackled her in the front yard, and she fought him off a second time. Gladys reported this, and Sowell was arrested for it. But, and this is infuriating, the officer who arrested him reported the incident as a rape. He had simply checked the wrong box on the incident report, but she wasn't raped. Gladys had reported it as a kidnapping and an assault, and although it never mentioned being raped. Although, if she hadn't fought for her life, she would have been raped and probably murdered.
Yes. Yep. 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah. The charges were dropped and more women were murdered as a result, and I can only imagine the guilt that cop must feel. 6 more women died.
I would hope he would feel at least some guilt, but you never know.
Yeah, this is
it wasn't my fault, Yeah, like the guys that released that one kid back to Dahmer, like neither one of them felt bad about that after. They're like, oh, well, we didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
Except, return a child to a serial killer, but
yeah.
What do I know?
January 17th, 2009, 44-year-old Kim Yvette Smith disappeared. Her body was discovered buried in Sowell's backyard. In April 2009, 47-year-old Imelda Hunter disappeared. She was discovered in Sowell's backyard. April 24th, 2009, 45-year-old Nancy Cobbs disappeared. That was 2 in 1 month. He hadn't done that before, and he would do it a second time. She was found on the 3rd floor of the house. June 3rd, 2009, 33-year-old Talisha Fortson disappeared, and she was found on the 3rd floor of Sowell's house. Later in June of 2009, 48-year-old Janice Webb went missing, and her body was found buried in the basement of the house.
Ran out of room on the 3rd floor, apparently.
September 23rd, 2009, Sowell attacked Latundra Billups. He lured her into the house to party, and Latundra told him about a rumor that she had heard about him. The rumor was that he had raped a woman. That was a bad move. Sowell lost it. Yeah, he didn't realize that there were rumors floating around about him for some reason. But at this point, 3 women had survived him. But he thought that he was bulletproof because he'd gotten away with 2 of the 3 and 1 on a technicality. But this woman was calling him out, and he couldn't have that, so he hit her and he strangled her with an electrical cord. He choked her out, and he thought that she was dead, but she wasn't. She woke up, and lucky for Latunda, he let her go. Why? We'll never know, but for whatever reason, I'm glad he did.
She got lucky. She got very, very lucky.
Mm-hmm. She left the house, and a friend took her to the police station, and she filed a report. But she bounced after that, and the police couldn't contact her. And I can't say I blame her, but still, this wasn't incompetence by the police. This was a victim getting the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, because we've already seen it once before, where he got cut loose, and they didn't tell the woman that he had attacked that that he had been released. So
it's like the woman that BTK stalked. I think it was Nancy. He was in her house, and he gave up and left, and then he sent her that oh Anna, why didn't you appear?
Oh yeah, that thing.
She just left everything in the house and got the hell as far as away from Wichita as she could have possibly gone.
Don't blame her a bit there.
Nope. But but the incompetence does show up again, and police even questioned Sowell about this attack. Sowell is like a bizarro universe Willie Pickton. Willie thought that he was helping the women that he killed get off of drugs. He'd take them in, and if they did drugs, he'd kill them.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Sowell thought that these women deserved to die, and that he would supply drugs and kill them. Sowell thought that these women deserved to die, and he would supply drugs and then kill them. Ironically, he lived next door to a sausage factory. He had access to it because he knew Ray, its owner. But it's just an ironic coincidence. I mean, he never supplied the factory with human meat.
Thank God.
Yeah. One of those is plenty.
Yeah, we don't need any more of them.
No.
I mean, this was like, in the grand scheme of things, this was fairly recent too. This was, you're saying like 2006, 2007, somewhere in there?
We're in 2009 now.
You know, which I mean, for old men like us, they're like, oh, that was, 5 years ago. Like, oh, no, that was...
A week later, a woman named Sean Morris went to Sowell's house to party. After she left, after she got her fix, but she realized that she had forgotten her ID. So when she went back, she knocked on the door, and when Sowell answered, he dragged her inside. He began beating and raping her, screaming, I hate bitches.
Yeah, again, nice guy.
Yeah. All thanks to picking up the pacemakers.
Yeah. We should start a class action against these people.
Yeah, definitely.
Business.
She managed to get away from him, and she went to the window and jumped from the 3rd floor.
That's a good fall.
There's surveillance video of this. She, probably coming from the sausage factory. Yeah.
Damn.
She hit the ground, broke both of her hands, 8 ribs, and cracked her skull. And it's broad daylight out.
Fuck.
Yeah. Sowell comes out of the house naked, and Sean is naked too. And he goes up to her and began beating her. And the neighbors saw this happening and called 911. And she was taken to the hospital and treated for her injuries. Around this time, Latunda Billups had surfaced again, and she gave the police a full statement. There was enough for a warrant to be issued to search Sowell's house. They really didn't need one because Sowell was on probation, but put a really quick knife in that.
Oh, no.
A week later, in September 2009, 48-year-old Diane Turner vanished, and she was found on the 3rd floor of the house. October 29, 2009, an investigating team requested the homicide unit come to 12205 Imperial Avenue. They started an investigation in a rape case with a man named Anthony Sowell as the suspect. But that turned into a suspected homicide.
Only suspected.
Yeah. The suspect was not present. Also, there was no power in the house, so they went in with flashlights.
Oh, I bet that was a blast.
Oh, yeah. You could smell the infamous odor, but everyone still assumed that it was the sausage factory.
Oh, my God.
I mean, why didn't anybody call the health department about the sausage factory? If that was the case, they would have come in, done an investigation, cleared the sausage factory, and then they would have been like, okay, what is it?
Exactly. You could have the health department there in 30 minutes. It's not a hard thing for somebody to get out there and be like, no, it smells like a sausage factory in here, not like a dead body factory.
Right.
That one must be next door.
Yeah.
God.
I don't get it.
It's incredibly lazy police work and just weird neighbors.
Yeah, but the neighbor, somebody should have called the health department.
For sure.
But I'm sure Ray would have gladly let him in. Like, come on in. It's not me.
In here, I swear.
I mean, even if they had to shut him down for a day, I'm sure he would have rather that happen than just people continuing to say that horrible smell. That couldn't have been good for his business.
Oh, God. What was the name of this place? Ray's Sausage Factory?
Ray's Sausage Factory. I think it's still open. But the house is gone. But I think Sausage Factory is still open. But they went inside, and the smell was strong enough to knock you down. They quickly realized that Ray's Sausage Factory had been getting a bad rap.
Yeah, I am on their Facebook page right now. They are still very, very open.
Good.
Ray's Sausage Company. And, 3146 East 123rd Street, Cleveland, Ohio.
Good on you, Ray. I'm glad that he's still alive. Or
free plug for Ray's Sausage Factory.
Yeah. The best smelling sausage factory in the country.
The tagline is we don't use human bodies, don't worry about it. Holy hell.
The house was trashed, and the deeper they got into it, the smell got worse. And they got to the third floor, but by that time, it was worse than anyone short of a Jonestown responder had ever smelled. They entered a bedroom, and right there on the floor were two bodies. They were badly decomposed, and they had been strangled, and the electrical cords were still around their necks.
God.
There are thousands of dead flies, hundreds of live ones, and of course maggots. Lots of them.
Yeah. Oh.
And there's pictures I saw of that too. Ooh.
Yeah, no. Mm-mm. That's not my favorite thing in the world to look at.
Got so bad that there were flies in that house that lived their entire existence in that house.
Yep. Which is like generations of them at that point, because they're life cycle.
They only live for about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Damn.
So
yeah.
This has got to be up there with I can't remember the guy's last name. His first name was Francois. They called him Stinky Francois.
Yeah, we covered him.
Yeah, that was another
Kendall
house.
Kendall Francois.
Yes. Yeah, maggots coming down through the floorboards into the floor below it from all the. Oh,
I actually had a listener come on and tell that story.
Oh, really? Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good one. But they searched the entire house, and they quickly found another one tied up in a garbage bag. So 3 corpses in one room. In the basement, they found a large mound of dirt under the stairs that led into the basement. When they dug into that, the smell of decomposition poured out of it. They found another dead body. It also had the ligature around the neck. Also in the basement was when they found the skull in the bucket.
And it's like you could think he's being sloppy, but he's really not, because he's got no reason to try to hide it, because it's all in his house. You know?
Yeah, they're blaming the smell on Ray.
Friggin' sausage factory.
Yeah.
Ray didn't do nothing. He's a good dude, probably.
Leave Ray alone. There was a crawl space that was discovered. It also had a large amount of dirt in it, and that was another body, of course, which still had the ligature around the neck.
God.
October 30th, 2009, a crowd had gathered. Curious people in the neighborhood and the press, and they began carting bodies out of the house. And when they did that, people started freaking out.
Understandable.
People started showing up with photos of missing loved ones, but because of the decomposition, matching any of them was going to be close to impossible.
Yeah, you're not going to manage that unless unless you have dental records or DNA. But
right.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able. It's going to have to be determined in an autopsy.
Yeah.
And it had been almost a month since Sowell's last murder, Diane Turner. Candlelight vigils began forming in the street. There's video of this. It's heartbreaking. People just coming out with candles all around the house.
Yeah.
But the consensus among Sowell's neighbors was that they couldn't believe that he was capable of doing that. Remember, he was very outgoing and likable in public or in person.
It's always that guy, like, they always make it look like a loner or something in the movies, and it's always just like the dude that everybody knows.
Mm-hmm.
The last guy you'd suspect, because that's the last guy you'd suspect.
Yep. Someone went to Tressa's place. His sister, who to this day thinks that Melvette Sockwell was lying, they told her that a body had been found at Anthony's house, and she initially freaked out because she thought that Anthony had died.
Okay.
She quickly learned otherwise. They cleared the house, but one detective on a whim decided to scope out the backyard. But it was lumpy. Just mounds that looked out of place there because there were no rocks.
Oh, no.
Just mounds that shouldn't be there. And they brought in a K9, and the good doggo hit on one spot immediately.
Who's a good boy?
He's a good boy. They dug it up, and they found yet another body, then another one. We're up to 7 now.
Oh my God.
4 more were found in the backyard, all buried about 1.5 feet underground, bringing the total from Sowell's house to 11.
Jesus.
Nancy Cobb's daughter was on the scene, and Nancy had been missing for about 6 months. Some of the police and detectives who said that the heartbreak of the people who were on the scene was worse than finding the corpses.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, that's got to be awful to try to because you want to help people, but at that point you really can't because you don't know enough yet.
Yeah.
And just to be like, yeah, we don't know if your daughter or, girlfriend or wife is in here yet. We can't determine it.
Can't determine it. I mean, even if we could, in the condition that these bodies are in, we could show her to you right now, and you wouldn't even be able to tell.
Yeah, you don't want to see her.
You don't want to see this.
I mean,
some things cannot be unseen.
No, that's some yeah. No, I've never envied anybody that's ever had to identify a body or anything like that. There's not something I ever wanted to have to do.
But then they released the number 11 to the press. And Lori Frazier found out about this when friends and family began to call her to make sure that she was all right. Although this caused her lots of psychological issues moving on with her life. PTSD for one. You have an impoverished and crime-ridden neighborhood, and this sick fuck who did this lived among them, and I can't even imagine.
No,
lots of citizens who were on the scene were wailing, and hell, I even had a hard time writing this part.
It kind of reminds you of like Dahmer's place when that whole thing happened, and the neighbors like, who did what now? Why do we have to leave? And I couldn't imagine. And I'm pretty sure they tore that place down, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah,
haven't covered Dahmer, other than
it's just like in passing a little bit here and there.
Well, the interview I did with the author of that book.
Oh, right.
So, indirectly, I've covered Dahmer.
Incidental contact.
I always say that Dahmer will be episode 500.
It's a good way to do it because, like, that gives you time to like really work it out and then not have to worry about anybody having covered it recently. Hopefully, and
I'll have been teasing it unless the proof comes out that Dahmer actually did kill Adam Walsh.
Right, and then fucking jump on it and try to beat everybody else to it.
Well, I already have. I've already covered the. But
you have the book to prove it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Hell, I'd bring the author back on just to let him vindicate himself publicly.
Oh, absolutely. Just be like, I told you.
But Anthony Sowell was still in the wind, and nobody who knew him knew where he was. But he was public enemy number 1, so he obviously vanished. But sightings were called in. Most were mistaken identities, and Cleveland literally had a real life monster like Michael Myers on the loose. And now it was, ironically enough, it was Halloween.
Oh, of course, perfect. Good time for it.
And the mothers were publicly discussing canceling trick or treating that year. It was just panic, though, and so Sowell wasn't a kid killer, but you still can't blame him.
Right? No, absolutely. Especially like as a parent, the last thing you want is anything to happen to your kids. So you're going to do whatever you can to, like, nah, if we have to trunk or treat this year or whatever, we're going to do that instead of going house to house because there's some psycho out there. And like, you never know, because now that he knows people are after him, he may become more dangerous and just start lashing out left, right, and center. But
well, he didn't.
Right, which is good.
And he didn't bounce either.
He stayed right in the area.
Yeah. On October 30th, the cop had him and let him go. That night, every cop in Cleveland was looking for Sowell, and they had searched lots and abandoned vacant houses and abandoned buildings. But a 911 call came in, and the caller said that he needed to talk to someone in the district police regarding a homicide at his house. He said that he was the person they were looking for. He admitted that he was Anthony Sowell, and he said that he was still in Cleveland. He said that in 20 minutes he was going to be out of there. So I think he's high at this point. I don't think that he's taunting the police. I don't think
that sounds like something you wouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I think
in the wrong frame of mind.
Yeah, I think he was just high and thought that I don't think that he had the mental capacity to be one of these people that taunt, like BTK.
Right.
I mean, I hate to give BTK any credit for being smart, but
right.
But
if he wasn't such a prick, just
Floppy disk. That's all I got to say. But the bus stations in the airport were locked down, and he wasn't leaving, though. One detective even theorized that. He said, I quote, "This puke isn't leaving."
I've always loved that just old man term of calling somebody a puke. That's great.
Yeah. Sowell called his sister Tressa and said that the police were going to call her, telling her about things that he had done and that he did do them, and he hung up after that. The press dubbed Sowell as the Cleveland Strangler, and that's usually how these pukes get their names. Unless you're BTK, then you come up with your own.
Yeah. Or Richard Ramirez for the what the I can't remember what is like the backdoor intruder or something was his original. It's like that sounds real bad.
Yeah, sounds like that Deep Purple song "Knocking at Your Back Door."
It's like then they found an AC/DC hat and he's like call him the Night Stalker.
You know, I had never really read the lyrics to that Deep Purple song before, but it's an awesome song. Until one night I got up to do it in karaoke, and I'm reading the lyrics, and I couldn't help myself. I just start cracking up. I'm like, I had no idea that song was
this
so
isn't about what I thought it was.
Yeah, that song is just so vile. I mean,
well, I can't remember the band that did it. That song, I'm Turning Japanese.
Yeah,
and you realize you're like, oh, this is about something completely different. This isn't he's not a weeboo nerd. He's cranking it, man.
Yeah. On day 2 of the investigation, a citizen called 911 saying that the caller had seen a man matching Sowell's description. The police went to the location, and they got there, and one cop thought that the guy standing out in front of him didn't really look like the picture that they had. He initially said that he literally didn't think that was the guy, but Sowell then just said, "I'm Anthony Sowell, the guy."
"I'm Anthony Sowell, the guy you're looking for, and I just want to die."
Okay.
Well,
stand there.
Here, just pull down your shirt a little bit. I'll just rip that pacemaker right out.
Right, yeah. Like Mortal Kombat 2, just like pull it out.
Yeah. He was arrested immediately. Yeah, that hurts just thinking about it.
Right. I was like the one where they pulled the spine out. I'm like, that one just like, ugh. Yuck.
He was arrested immediately. He was interrogated, and he didn't give any details. He didn't talk much in his life, and he talked less while in custody. He started talking about his dreams, though. So the detectives they oblige him and start talking about his dreams. He then began talking about things that happened in his dreams. What the police had was Anthony, the neighbor outside of the house. They didn't have Anthony, the vicious rapist and serial killer from inside of the house.
Yeah, that's two different people.
Yeah. "You're good, Ash. I'm bad, Ash. You're a goody little tissue. Goody little tissue, good little tissue."
Oh my God, I love that.
Good, bad, I'm the guy with the gun.
And it makes me sad that there's people that are going to hear that and not get the reference.
Oh, no kidding.
But shit.
Army of Darkness.
One of the best movies.
The best of all of the Evil Dead movies, in my opinion.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of people will be like, well, the new ones are really good. No. I don't want to watch the new ones because I don't want to watch a horror movie. I want to watch the old ones because they're funny as hell.
Yeah. But through the dreamscape, his hatred for women was blatantly obvious. He was playing out the violence that he had lived and witnessed in childhood. He hated druggies and hookers, and he liked the ones that were doing something for themselves. But it didn't matter. He killed them all anyway.
Equal opportunity.
Yeah. Sowell swore that those 11 victims were all that he did. He was asked about the 3 who were killed in the late 80s that I mentioned at the beginning, and he denied them. And there was no evidence connecting him to them other than a similar MO. There's very compelling interrogation videos on YouTube. His his sister Tressa was off of the Anthony is innocent bandwagon at this point, but not about Malvette though.
Yeah, no, not that one.
But Sowell pled not guilty, so the case went to trial. He had a total of 85 counts with his attacks and murders on women. The strongest evidence, other than the dead bodies, was the testimony of the 4 women who escaped him. They all testified. They were all scared shitless as they testified, but they got it done.
Good.
Yeah. Sowell never told what happened in the murders. But that's why I was only able to say we have this woman. This is where she was found in the house.
Yeah, if he's not giving out details, there's no details to be had.
Right. The only details that we got were the accounts of Melvette Stockton, Vanessa Gay, Gladys Wade, and Latunda Phillips, and they all pretty much told the exact same story. None of these women knew each other, and there was a good chunk of time in between their encounters with Sowell, so there's a pretty good chance that all the women had experienced similar horrors when they had a run-in with him. During their questioning, Sowell was laughing at him. And also, yeah, Anthony also had a type. His victims were either slender or obese. There was no in between. Which is weird.
Kind of opposite ends of the spectrum there, but hey.
Yeah, you would think that he would just go after the slender ones because of his pacemaker.
Right.
But in July 22nd, 2011, the jury found Sowell guilty of all the 11 murders. He was cuffed and led away, and he threw his cuffed hands up in an act of defiance. Sowell was later sentenced to death, and rightfully so. Mm-hmm. Even his main squeeze, Lori Fraser, said that he deserved it.
Yes, I'd agree.
Sowell's house was turned down and replaced with a memorial to the victims, but he'll always be a boogeyman in Cleveland's history for generations to come. But he's not well known among the heavy hitters, like I said in the beginning of the episode. He's forgettable unless you live in Cleveland.
Which is crazy. It's insane.
Because he's one of the worst.
Yeah, 11 people, and you've been stashing them in your house. Man, I don't understand where the cutoff is for who is like real well known and who isn't with serial killers. I don't understand why there's almost like prejudice against like, this guy did some stuff, but not as bad as this one. But
like Ron Dominique, that fucker killed 23 people.
I've never heard his name other than from you.
Yeah,
I
mean, he's definitely way up there, but nobody ever heard of him.
Like, I could understand this guy getting lost in the shuffle if there was a bunch of other active serial killers.
But the main reason why Sowell got away with this for so long was because of the stench coming from Ray's sausage factory, literally right next to his house. There was a horrible smell in the area, and it seemed to get worse every year. Some of the I'm just talking. Yeah, we already know this. I'm just kind of recapping.
Yeah.
Some giving more information. Some families moved out of the area because of it. So everybody thought that the odor was from the factory. Nobody thought that it was anything other than the sausage waste rotting in the dumpsters. But because of the smell, Anthony was able to use that to his advantage. Ray, the owner, even spent thousands of dollars on upgrades to filtration systems, even though he knew. So you know what? Somebody probably did call the health department.
Oh, poor Ray.
Yeah, somebody probably did call the health department, and they were like, even though he knew that the smell wasn't coming from his factory, he still, So I think somebody actually did call the health department.
This poor bastard spent thousands and thousands of dollars for no reason.
Well, he wouldn't have to upgrade for a long time moving forward. So
that's true.
Hopefully he hadn't just upgraded.
Right. Oh my God.
But proud to report the factory is still in operation today, and it's thriving. The locals figured that there was a serial killer at work, but not one person ever suspected Sowell. His ex, Lori, even went to check on Sowell several times, and while the house was filthy, she herself attributed the smell to the sausage factory.
God damn it.
But she did see some things that would be dead giveaways. If I won't go there.
Uh-oh.
I won't go there.
Oh, no, you got to now.
Dead giveaway. Thank you for that time suck, and also thank you for that plug. I really appreciate that. And by the way, to all of Time Sucks listeners that are checking us out, thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
And thank you by proxy, hopefully.
Yeah, go check out History Goon if he ever gets it released.
Y'all like any of that history shit? Like, but it'll definitely happen. I'm just, like I said, just waiting.
But she did see some things that would be dead giveaways if the entire house wasn't such a garbage dump. Why they call you a garbage dump? Garbage dump. Why they call you a garbage dump?
Why it smell like people in here?
You got that reference, didn't you?
No.
It's Charles Manson's song.
No, I don't think I've ever heard that.
Garbage dump. It's Charles Manson's song. It's actually Phoebe's Smelly Cat song.
Oh, okay.
Actually fits is sung the exact same way Charles Manson.
Oh God.
So there's like speculation that they used Garbage Dump to write the Smelly Cat song.
That'd be awesome.
They deny it, of course.
Off topic, it just switched me over to Carolina and Atlanta in the Northeast, which is perfect.
Yeah. But yeah, she saw a bag of lye.
Mm-hmm.
She saw electrical cords that were ripped. She also saw him scrubbing what looked like blood out of the carpet. And this is from interviews with her after the fact. Plus, he had cuts and bruises. She thought nothing of it at the time. She just knew it was time for her to go. He had always had a way to explain everything away. And Lori and his sister had no clue that he could be responsible for the missing women. January 21st of 2021, Sowell was sent to hospice. The issue wasn't released, and to this day, what he had still hasn't been released. He died shortly later on February 8th of 2021. Rest in agony, you piece of shit.
Yeah. Wonder if it was one of those
the COVID death. No, if it was COVID, they would have blasted it all over the news.
That's true. Yeah.
So he
one
didn't
of those non-related health conditions.
Yeah, he didn't have COVID. But thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the hell out of it. Please subscribe and follow on the YouTube page and comment, or follow us on whatever streaming platform you use, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, or whatever. You can also comment on Spotify. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review, a 5-star rating. It really helps grow the show, but what helps the most is word of mouth. So if you like us, tell a friend. If you hate us, tell a foe. Thanks to Kevin for filling in for Sandra.
Absolutely. It was fun.
And keep an eye out for History Goon. And until next week, later.
Bye.